This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, so very warm welcome to the next session on SAP Cloud Platform Integration. So we'll just quickly look at what we have discussed in our last session. So let me just go to that specific slide as such. Okay, I think in our last session we first started with the OData service. How do we actually query your OData service? Then we discussed about your what is URL, URI. Okay, then we discussed how we are going to actually make that particular call. So we just see that how with the help of the OData adapter, we have this query builder, which will help you to define or build your query for that specific service. So we talked about few important things, how this EDMX file look like, how your XSD look like, where are your different kind of information is stored as such. After that, we saw end-to-end how we were able to dynamically pass an order number, we are able to fetch the shipping details. After that, we started with one of the most important topic in your cloud platform integration as such, which is the mapping part. Okay, so your message mapping is also your known as the graphical mapping. So it defines the logic that maps input message structure and the required format of the output message structures. So what happens is, so in case if you have different data schema of one system and another schema of different system, you have to map it out and you have to look at how you'll be able to define that specific mapping to build that corresponding output target message as such, so that a receiver system can consume it and can process the data as such. So we saw that this is Java based mapping. So we have the concept of a queues and a context. I haven't talked anything about a queues and context as such. Today we are going to discuss about it as such. Again, queues is also very simple as such, but again there is a way how we actually logically map into the system. So whenever we're talking about in our SAP CPI, so that used to have some kind of enterprise service repository where we used to define our XML structure of your sender, then your receiver. We used to define it end to end, but right now here into the system, it's little easy as such. Okay, so you have in your this is a screenshot where onto the integration flow. If I go to the resources, I'll be able to add your XSD, JSON, EDMX, WSDL. So there are a lot of resources which you can just directly plug into the application part. Again, it just fasten your development as such. Okay, so please look at this ad whenever we go to the schema. There are a lot of useful information are there which you can actually leverage it out. After that, one more important here is that in any standard iFlow, let's say in case if you go into any standard iFlow, you see this is something relevant to you, might be also can download it out. So let me show you also. I think someone asked that will be able to visualize for standard iFlows or not. Let me show you. But whenever we are talking about a standard prepackaged content configuration and enhancement of it, then we can discuss about that particular part too. So I can just go on to any artifacts as such. So here if I go, so if I go here into the global properties of the standard integration flow as such, if I go to the resources, I can just visualize what are the different information we have. I can see XSD, WSDL, your message mapping, and everything. You can just import it directly into your iFlow also. I think that is still possible. You know that whenever you click on edit, you have add, you can just do locally from your from other integration flow too also. So we can just check that particular part. But this is pretty much possible. This is very well helpful also. Guys, end of the day, if you're starting with the CPI, I'm sure initially you will have a lot of challenge. The initial days of persistence will only take you to the next step. I know initially it will be somewhere frustrating also, but in case if you have that period and you just go on step by step, I don't think so it should be a challenge for you as such. Okay, so this is what we have discussed. Then after that, I'll quickly go into the system, what use cases we have talked about for a message mapping. Okay, perfect. So yes, so first example we just discussed about the plain message mapping as such. Okay, when I say plain message mapping, it's like a one-to-one message mapping. So let me go here. Guys, really sorry in case if I don't pick the correct indication flow. I would just take in my next session, make sure that I have proper nodes and iFlow names. Okay, which one? Content based order. We did it somewhere here only. Copy. Let me see if this is the one. Okay. Let me. I think this is the one where we have talked about shipping details. Let me just. So let me just quickly go here into the message mapping part. So please remember that whenever you have to just choose any kind of a message mapping here into the palette, this three parallel lines depicts your message mapping. Here we have three things: message, operation, and XLT part of it. Operation as such we would not be used much. In case if you have integrated with the PA box, then it will be of little relevance. Your message and your XLT will be main. I think based on the request, I'll just take one use case of XLT mapping. Little later stage might be in our next or after that session. Okay, I can just plan a one session on XLT part also. So last time our focus was on the message mapping part. So I'll go here in case if you want to create it, just quickly drop it and just onto this plus, you will be able to create your message mapping. So this is how we have done it. For resources, as I'm mentioning it out here, we have this resources tab where you can just add mapping, schema, and your script. So just make sure that you play around it here. So now let's say in case if it's your some kind of schema or structure. Now let's say in case if it's a wisdom, one option from a source is your file system. Second is your integration flow. So let's say in case if I want to choose from other integration flow locally or different packages, everything is a possible here. Next option is your ES repository, which is your enterprise service repository. So this will be the only case when this particular CPI tenant is integrated with your PI box. Here you have to give the name and address. Again, there is a specific configuration for it. You'll be able to see all the visual files. So this is how you'll be able to leverage that particular part. After
Yes.
that, what we have seen here is there any question or
Yes. Sam, about you mentioned about when we connect to the BI through the PO, but where it should become this business system, technical system here?
yep. So there we have a specific way to integrate to your PIPA box. Okay. So again, this is possible through your cloud connector. Again, cloud connector, if I go to the settings, here you have this ES repository. Okay, so here you have to first connect it out through cloud connector. Cloud connector is for the location ID as such. I'll talk about that particular part also, but you have to make sure your system is connected as such.
Okay.
Yep. Only the question sometimes people ask, can multiple PO box can be connected? But there is a very rare chance that you have a multiple PO boxes. Okay. In case if you have a huge implementation and you have different boxes, then it's a very different thing altogether. Okay, cool. So I'll just go here. I think what we have seen, we'll just go with the basics first so that we know each and everything. How to add your structures, we know that here. Replace, change occurrence, how to delete it. Okay, I'm sure this is pretty much clear to everyone. After that, in case if you want to export it, this is the option. This is your graphical mapping, single map by map, one by one function. Then we discussed about your functions, and we have seen there are different kind of functions which are available. Your arithmetic, your boolean, okay, your constant, your conversions, your date, node, statics, and text. I don't want to just say very specifically. Everything is important, guys. Everything is important. Mostly your text function, your note, your date, constant, and booleans. These I see frequently being used multiple places. First example was what we have seen is that how we have mapped with like concatenation. Then we saw for country, here we have done the concept of a fixed value. Then we did a date transformation. So these are like a basic functions which people are like happy to know it. So this was first use case what we have done it. So this worked out for us. Then we discussed about one more case where we have both order and the shipping information. So that use case was my multi-map use case where I have multiple message one, then message two, and then I have to mark into my final M message. Okay, so how to map this multiple message? So here we have just taken the use case for with the help of this content enricher. Okay, so here we have both the messages. Important in this example was my important here was my occurrence part of it. Okay, so we have to make sure that this never be 1 to 1. Okay, make sure it's 0 to 1 or 0 to n as such. So one more thing here, it can be your input multiple message or might be there is more chances. I think one question was there, someone asked that, Sam, can there be chance that I have a multiple target message? So it's a very rare that you have a multiple target message. Okay, in case if we have it, so definitely we have to use router, we have to segregate both the messages, or might be use a multicast to put the message in both the branches, and might be then use some logic to specify what should go in A and what should go in B. So all this kind of use case might be, you can just think of if there is anything come very specific. If you're coming to me, I'll be more than happy to answer it. Please just give me the specific flow and some data so I can actually validate it out myself. So this is on the message part. On your multi-map message. Here I think we have understood one more case, which was my value mapping. So whenever I go to the case of a value mapping, so what happens is in our country use case, we heard initially that we have the concept of a fixed values where we map your different countries, let's say country with a specific code. So here let's say we have 10 countries, we have mapped the code. But now what happens is whenever you're working onto a real-time scenario, this is good for some code list values, but not all the values. Now let's say in case if I'm integrating S4 with C4C or any system, I'll say I can just connect HCM to SuccessFactor, Ariba to S4, for any system. Now, important point what we have to understand is that whenever we are interconnecting these two different systems, so there are a lot of value which common flows. So now let's say one common example is a plant, or let's say some specific values which is huge, which can grow. So with the example of a fixed value, so there are disadvantage of maintenance and your reference into the other integration. So we bought in the concept of a value mapping. So we understood that how in your SAP CPI tenant as such, we have the concept of value mapping. Let me go here, that particular part also. So this type will become the value mapping here. Yeah, this one. So here again, what we have discussed, what we have defined here is that how you can just define your agency, your identifier, and then your agency and the receiver identifier. So here we have just mapped some countries, and here in our example, what we are doing is we are just giving the agency and identifier for source and my receiver. Automatically based on this, this is going to receive the values as such here. So now let me go here on to that specific integration flow. So here you see we have the source agency, we have the source identifier, we have your target agency and the target identifier, and then we are just using a default value in case if there is a no map of it. So this is just a one example uh, of the value mapping. This value mapping would be very common whenever you have with your integration use cases. So this is what we started basic on your integration part. Today I'm just going to just take some common example, I think, which is very common available, but I think my part is just to explain you step by step so that you can actually relate it, and might be in case if you have to use it into your use cases also, you can just do that particular part. So going ahead, is there any kind of question? So please let me know as such. I can just take a pause for a minute and you can just let me know.
Sam, one question from my side here is this message mapping, what we are doing, I can see it. It is exactly look like a PI or PO mapping here. But in PI PO, possibilities is there that I can write my own UDF functions. It's also possibility here.
Yes, we have it here.
Okay.
We have that particular option where you can just write the functions as such. Cool. If is there anyone else any kind of a question? Cool. So now what we can do is we can just go on to the next step of it. Okay, so the next part comes here in my CPI, or whenever we are just going into other examples, we have the concept of a context. So in case we have to give you a very normal definition of your context is that, as you know, that SAP CPI processes the data mostly into your XML format. Okay, so what happens is whenever you have message mappings in CPI, so which so all your mappings are like as a XML message in queues. Okay, so whatever your XML message comes into the system, so this whenever it hits into your mapping part, so it goes into a queue. So the queue contains all source data in your XML format. In queue, what we have is, okay, let me show you. If I just go with by definition of context and a context change, no one will be able to relate it out. So let me just go here in this particular part. Let me just try to do one thing. So now what I can just do is I can just show you one part of it. Okay, wait, I think I have the message format. I think last time we were just playing around with it. Okay, I think this is just a simple flat structure. Let me just show in this only. I hope this is the correct one. What we have it here is. Okay. So now what happens? So now let's say in case if I just go on to any kind of element here. Let me just choose anything which is selected here. Let's say ship name. So So now here what we see is that how my one field from a source is mapped to the target search. So now what happens is, so now let's say in case if I want to see what are the different values we have it. Okay, so this is something called as a debugging of it. Okay, debugging of your message here. So if I just click onto this, first we have a different kind of information available. Copy expression is one part, we'll just see later. It's a very simple thing again: display queue, context, return XML, find field and information. This particular value is also very helpful. So when I say find field, what I mean by it? So whenever I hover over to it, it shows me where exactly is the structure. But now let's say in case if you are into iDoc, this becomes little complicated to find it out where this particular field is. So now let's say in case if I click onto this particular field and say find field, so this will just highlight where this particular field is. It becomes a little easy in case if you have 600, 700 field as such. Now here display queue and context is important. So first I'll just show you what we have in the display. So once I just click on a display, so it'll show the values. Again, whenever you have a table, it shows as your as such uh, into array. Here you can just see the value here. So the value is repeated. The reason is first is a context and second just says a context change where same value get copied and it just gets highlighted out. The reason is we don't have a multiple value. So now let's in case if you have multiple values, let's say if you have multiple addresses, let's in case if you have a two address here, let's in case if this is a table, we have a two addresses here. So again, the two addresses will be written here 1 2 3 4 time. So first is the actually the address. Second here in the representation is it just talks the context is changed. There is a new address comes up. Again, it will just get repeated as simple as that. It always starts from 0. Okay, for to do array. Now let me see if we have any other values here. I think as such here we would be having just single values as such, but in case if you click here display queue, you will be able to see what exactly is the value here. Let's say in our simulate we have passed SAP, so it will just show you in the specific field what kind of a value we have it. Okay, so here I'll just again just try to put it out context. Might we'll just take one more example where if you have multiple values, so you can just see actually context change. So your, as I mentioned, your queue contain all the data. So whenever your in your structure, elements under the same parent node are considered as the same context, while when the parent node is changed, the change is put into the queue and just that gets highlighted with a color code dark as such. So let me just take one more example for this. Let me just check in case. Okay. Okay, yeah, okay, perfect. So I'll just take one more example for this particular part just to understand the context or how does this particular part look like. So I can just create just a mapping here. So now I can just add a source message in case if I don't have available, I can just download it. So here in my mapping, I have this employee dates. Okay, so first I have this structure. I'll just add it. Same structure, I can just add it here onto the target side also. Okay. So now first I'll just tell you what we are going to do, then might be I can just read it with the example part of it. Okay, so we are going to do the case of a data sorting as such. Okay, so when I say data sorting, so now let's say in case if we have this employee information here for one job candidate. if you just look at here, there are different kind of for an employee has a different position in a company. I think, okay, first he has a position A, then position C, and the position B. So now what my expectation at the receiver side is that this should get actually sorted. So now let's say here we have first 2010 to 10, then we have from 19 to your 2019 to your 1999. So this is like ongoing position. And then we have this 2011 to 2018. So if you just look at step by step, so first it comes to your position A, then your position B, and then it comes to your position C as such. Okay, in case what my receiver expects. So this position should be filtered as such. So now what happens is, so now both the side I just need the same structure here in the application. Only the part is whatever the source this message comes out, this should get easily mapped onto the receiver side, but a sorted one as such. So now both sides the structure is same. So I'll just tell you one more functionality here. In case if you have a structure same, this can happen. Let's say someone has consumed your visual, so structure would remain same. So in case if your structure is same, you can just select this part. Here you have the map selected fields with a subtree or with the identical names. In case if you wherever I just choose, so now let's say in case if I just choose here, if I just click onto this part, so whatever the below, whatever with identical names, it will just map it out for you. So if I just click onto this, it will automatically map it for you. So this is again a quick utility to achieve your message mapping. In case if you want to delete it also, you can just click on part and it will get deleted. So again, um, very simple this part. So now we have this example, so I can just show you how this particular part look like. Now let me just do one thing here. Now let me, instead of having your data uploaded here into the simulate, you can just also browse it here. Now I have this data available, which is for employee dates. This is my structure. So now let's say in case if I just go to the start date here. So now I see here into my XML, I have this 3 start date. This start date, start date, start date. So now if I just go here and click on to display queue, so this will get there 7 number will get generated. First is a null, then same date will get repeated, and there will be, it will just get your context. You will have your context change. So now what it says is that first of all your here array starts with zeros. If first will be your 0 is null as such. So first is my date 1110, second is my 19, and third is my 11 as such here. Okay, so the value we definitely see from whatever is available here into this particular XML. But now what happens is here, this is again your, we have our understanding in your CPI part. In CPI part, this value, because these are all are onto the same node. Okay, so whenever a news record comes up, this context change that it depicts, there is a record change as such. So now if we look at here, we see that there are 3 job information. Okay, for a change, it depicts change with this gray color where it says the context has changed or the record has been changed. Okay, so this is how we, this is what we call as a context in your SAP CPI. Are people able to relate this part out? Anyone? Okay, if you are able to relate it, I'm very happy for it. So I'll just do one thing. I'll just, this particular part, I'll definitely, I want to write it here into this context. And guys, mostly people, some place I haven't written a text, so don't worry. Whenever I'm just having this final slide, I'll just write all this text. Okay. So SAP CPI handles your message mappings as XML messages in queues. The queue contains all the source data in XML format in elements under considered as the same context, and whenever parent node is changed, the context change is put in the queue. Okay, so now here, as my record change, okay, or the new parents node get added of job information, so this is how you'll be able to actually get your context change or where the value changes. So this is about my display queue context. It just talks right now. We here, if we just look at the structure, so we have employee information, and we have your job information. So it will just show you all the different kind of a context. In case if I just click on the employee, so this is my employee information as such. If I click on the display queue, sorry. So here, because there is just one node of a job information, so first is blank. We now understand it. It array talks about a list of record as such, as simple as that here. And the second line, it just tell you that how many records we have. So we can just say here, so how many number of record you see? 1 2 3 4 5 6, just half it. That's the number of records you have. It as simple as that. Guys, any question here? Because again, this part is important. Any silly thing, small thing, ask it out. I hope you can just hear me out. Hello, can
Yes,
anyone?
I'm yeah.
Okay, thank. Yeah, that was just a yeah dead silence. So that's the reason just I asked. So now here, so now let me just ask you. Just take a 1 or 2 minutes. And guys, again, this is important that that's how you start thinking about it things. Now let's say I tell you that I have this sample data with me. Okay, where I have this for one employee, I have this different job information. Now I need to sort this out. You have the source structure in front of you, you have a target structure in front of you. Now tell me how we're going to sort this information. What's your thought process here? And you don't have to be correct. Just tell me like what would be your, let's say in case if someone gives you this particular part to do it, what how you will just start this.
Sam, I will probably look into the mapping expression and see I can use something from there, maybe.
Okay, so now let's in case if I ask you, let's look at so what is the mapping function you will see that which is going to fit it out here. Okay,
First,
let
I'll
me.
search for something called a sort in case if there is anything like that.
Yes, sort definitely is there. Okay, fair point. But now
Oh,
important is now let's say in case if you have a sort, where you will apply the sort part here. Now just go a step further. Now I'm saying so what I'm looking for is, guys, I really want to just create with you this part. Okay, because I can just quickly just write some steps and it will work out. My point is I have seen after this year of experience, people think that okay, they'll go on to the position. I'll put a sort. This will get sorted. Now, let's in case if you do that particular part, your start date and end date will not change. Okay. If this gets sorted out, your output is still wrong. So now I just want that you people just start thinking about all the fields, not into the application part here where you just think about the one specific field and you say I'm going to do that particular part. So that's what I'm saying.
We have
Just
to
take a
apply
1 or 2
in job
minutes.
information.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Can we apply sort
In the
on?
mapping of job information to job information, there we can apply the sort.
See, in case if you apply onto the job information, let's say in case if you apply onto the job information, what about the start date and end date? Or how you are going, if let's say if you apply onto the job information, how you will filter the node here? What if you apply onto the node also, what specific change you will do here?
Can we specify the order of the sort? Like sort, I mean the first field is job information and then the second one is the start date and end date. Something like that. Can we do that?
See that in application side still it will be a little easy to do that particular part, but not here as such. Okay, because we don't have some kind of table where you have from application side you can just easily do a sorting based on some specific thing. Okay, now we have to sort this position and again your date should also reflect in the same way. So end of the day, yeah, the job information node is important for us.
Sam, if I will be in this position, I will be writing my own UDF function, yeah?
Okay, just tell me like what kind of a UDF function you want to write it out here.
If you go on to write our own function, yes.
No, that's okay, but I'm just saying which specific function do you have it to write this particular part out? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sam.
See, okay, fair enough. I think let me just start writing it out and then we'll just see how these things work out. So first of all, in our SAP CPI, we have a different kind of a node functions which are available. Again, as I mentioned, this is a very common example which you will get it on the internet. Try to understand the functionality of it. Okay. So first, let's say in case if you have to achieve this particular scenario, till start date everything will remain the same. So now we'll just go field by field. First, we'll go to the start date as such. Still here, I think my structure remains the same. I have to just take care of the 3 specific fields here. So I'm going to use some functions, okay, what SAP has given to us and they want us to use it out. So what are those functions as such? So first I'll be worried about start date. Okay. In a start date, there is something called I'll be looking at what are the different functions. So I'll go to the start date. Okay, you can just click on maximize and yeah, your things will be here. You can just delete this particular part. Now first I'm gonna do is I'm going to use the function like remove context.
Okay.
Okay. So now whenever I'm just talking about a remove context, what exactly does this mean is, so now we see that in our last example that whatever the value we have in the start date, so it just shows with the context change. But when I just do a remove context, it'll put all the dates into the same context so that for us it's little easy to work it out. So I'll just show you example also, but just try to understand what is the meaning of it. To remove all context changes and put the date in the same. In case looking at this theoretical part, if you are not able to let it out, that's okay. Second function, what I can use is I can just use an option of a sort. Okay, so in this particular case, I'm going to do the descending. Okay, so which is the latest one will just come at the top. Set the order as descending here. Okay, then we have something called a new function is called split by value. Okay, so now it is just opposite to what we do in a remove context. In a split by value, what we are going to do is it's simply to insert context changes based on each value changes by default. So now here in this particular case, now we'll just try to look at all this particular function and see how this part works out. Okay, so here first of all, what is the mapping is already been there. I'll just delete it. First I'm going to use it something called a remove context. I'll put here, I'll just put into this, I'll connect into the input part. After that, I'm just going to use a function sort. Again, this global search is a little easy to use it out here. Again here, ascending, descending. I'll just again connect here. If you have case sensitive, is your insensitive float number. Again, based on your requirement. The next is your split by value here as such. So whenever once you hover over to it also, it just give you some kind of a short context. It says split by value function is insert context changes between after the event specified. So I'll just click onto this part. I'll connect into this input and I'll just connect again to the start date here as such. Here I have again, when you want to change the context, each value, empty value or a value change. I just mention as a each value. So this is the configuration what I have done it for the start date. And I'm sure everyone would be interested that Sam, is it working or not? How can I say that part? So now here, if I just see the structure, so we have this dates initially into our part. So now let me just simulate and just check it out. So here this becomes very handy because step by step I can just visualize my value. So here I have this 2010, 2019 and 2011. In case if I have done my part correctly, so what will happen is, so this first start dates will get automatically sorted. So it should come as 10, 11, then it should come as 19. Sorry, it should come as 19, then 11, and then it should come as a 10 because we have the descending order. So let me just click over here onto the test part. So now let me just go here on to job information. So now you see 2019, then you see 2011, and then you see 2010 as such. So now this becomes, now we are still clear that, okay, there is a way that we'll be able to pull off this part. So now what I've done it onto the start date, same I'm going to do for the end date as such. So again, what I'm just going to use the functions. Then I'm just going to use sort. I'm going to use a split. Now here, what I'm gonna do, yeah. So I'm just gonna connect it. I'm gonna connect it here. This is a descending. Again, just make sure whenever you're using a sort, so there has to be an order for the sort. Again, split by value, and then I'm just going to connect it to the end date here. Now, in case if I want to test it out, I can just click on simulate and I can just do test. So now let me just, so here also, if you just look at, so now I think we have the correct end date also. Okay. So now position is still wrong because this was the first node, so position is directly passed ACB, but here the dates, whatever it's what we are looking to sort it out now, I think that had worked out for us because we have a start date that gets sorted, the second node also, and the last node also. Now for us, important is that how we are going to filter or get this position correctly into the receiver structure as such here. So let's just plan to do that particular part here. But now a quick question to you. So now let's say in case if someone, uh, again, this is general guys. I'm not here to test anyone or anything here. My point is simple. I just want to have a little like some kind of a discussion so that we can actually think in that same direction, or if I can just help you to get you also aligned in the similar direction. Now let's say in case if I want to have the position, what would be your thought process? How can we actually get the position correctly? Here it's just pure logic. Again, just take a minute here because doing this will not take much time.
Sam, can't we follow the exact same steps that we did for the start date, end date, even for the position?
See, what happens is whenever we sort it, how now currently it was the A, B, C text. Okay, so now let's say in case if it's more in a little different way if they have put it out, how you will sort that? Because numbers can be sorted. Okay, for
The
let's say
position
positions
number
like yeah, go ahead.
but by number, yes.
See again, position is some kind of a text as such, na? Position is some kind of a
Okay,
text.
okay, okay, yeah.
So we do not have a sort for a string over here, like in mapping expression.
But do you think sort for a string will help you out?
Like I'm thinking in terms of like ABAP development. We
Sort
have like
by
a
sort by. Have you seen anything sort by text? Is there something? Have
it,
you seen anything in the method sort by text?
the actually at least in ABAP the sort function will sort that.
It's sort. See, sort is there, but for text is. Have you seen it? Okay, let's leave it. But I doubt on that particular part, but that's okay. Okay, so now what exactly is for your position also? I'll just first put it out here so that okay, so whenever I'm just talking about a position, again, I think definitely remove context would be very much required because we have to take everything into one table. Again, in a very lame word. Okay, then here what we have to do here is we have to actually sort by a key. Okay, because here you will not be able to just sort it out based on your text as such. So here what we can do is we have a function here called sort by key. Okay, so here you have to pass uh, some kind of a key. So now let's say in case if we pass a key as a start date, then we should be able to do that particular part. So sort by key, after that again we have to bring the context for that particular part. We use the function called split by value. I'm sure people here are very new, so just try this particular part out. I'm sure this you will be able to relate it out here. So now here I'm going to use the start date as a key for filtering my position as such. So now what I'm gonna do here is again I have to use remove by context. Okay, then I'll pass the start date into both so that we have everything into one table. Then I'm going to use this time your sort by key. Okay, again, this is one more feature we have it. So now here you see there are two parameters to it. We have your key value and order. We are looking for a descending order as such. If I don't do it, so the sequence will be wrong. Now here I'm going to pass my start date as a key, and based on it, this is going to take the corresponding value. After that, I'm going to again use something called split by value here. And then I'm going to pass it here into the input, and I'm going to pass it to the position as such. So now let's, in case if I have to simulate it out, I'll just click on test. Again, guys, this people generally don't go whenever you are just on the trainings that going into the node function. No one wants to get into the nasty of the node functions as such. And if you just try it out, it will easily work out for you also. Okay, so now you see here, now everything is sorted for us. So 2019 till 1990 we have position C, then we have position B with my start and end date starting from 2011 2018, and then we have this last one is your position A with the start date of 1 January till your 31st December 2010. So now we are able to sort the source format into the target structure. But now guys, just one quick question. Now let's say in case if you'll give this kind of information to you, what would be your first trick? Let's say in case if someone gives you to do this requirement, is any other thought you have it after doing this thing?
In this case, maybe it will be better to go with the top root node, Sam. Yeah.
Okay, I think my here intention to ask this question was, guys, see, this kind of a logic for filtering would be very easy into your S4 or into the C4C part. Now let's say in case if you are here, okay, and someone asks you to do this filtering onto the CPI part, my request is first ask them, because this kind of things becomes little easy onto the application side. This is not something very complicated to filter your employee information onto any application. Okay, at record level, again, this is easy to filter your data and pass it out rather than writing this kind of a logic into CPI. So whenever you get this kind of mapping required, think twice before developing it out also. I'm just telling you from little maturity side, whatever can be easily done. First, let's say in case it is your on-premise, I don't want to say S4 ECC, any kind of on-premise, and this is your cloud. First, make sure that if you are as a developer, if there is anything very which can be done easily onto this application side, ask them to develop it out. Okay, don't just for the sake you're working or they just want you to work it out. This is just a waste of time, because here in case if someone writes this logic in a map, for him it will just it's job of 5 or 10 minutes as such. But here it can take time. The structure was simple, but in case of the structure is little more clumsy, it becomes little challenging to work it out. So whenever you're developing any kind of this mapping logic, please validate that why they cannot do it. Okay, or might be why this cloud person cannot do it. Most of the time it happens that you don't know the person, but I would still recommend that you can just connect with them and just see what exactly is the feasibility out here. Okay, let's say some kind of specific data format, because might be the parsing cannot happen onto the source size. If they change it, makes sense. Something very specific which you're going to know at the runtime makes sense. But this kind of a use case, whenever you're having it out, please discuss once. That shows even the maturity of integration developer, and that yeah, he really understands it, and he thinks that why it will be a better to develop it here as such. So that was the reason here. With this example, I just want to just show you how your things works out. One more thing which I actually which I want to show is, now let's say in case if we want to just check values at the runtime also, start date here, if I click on display queue, So here we'll just see three values. Okay, 10, 19 and 11. Okay, your 10, 19 and 11 last value will get replicated one more time and just shows, okay, we have your context change. So this is on to your remove context. Start date, sorry, start date, this is how it look like. Then on to your remove context, in and out, how your message look like. After doing a sort, if I click on to, now in was this value 10, 19 and 11, then here on to the right side we have 19, 11 and 10. Split by value, it'll just show you the context change. Now honestly, one thing here guys, I am now little surprised because here when we just click on display queue, it should show us the SS6 record. I'm not sure why currently this is showing. This is perfectly wrong, because here we have like split by value which bring the context, okay, like this. So this should also in a start date show like this. I'm not sure right now why at this start date it is behaving like this as such. Okay, or let me just check the context. Okay, sorry, the context was wrong. Now let me, I think context was set onto the upper node. Yeah, this is the context. I think node context node was set to the upper part. That was the reason we did, just to show you, but I didn't make any change. Okay, so this is how actually it look like and how we are able to, if I go here on to my final start date, this is my message 1, 2 and your 3 look like here.
Hey Sam, can you show what went wrong, like at the start date, like what did you change so
No,
that
no,
we
no,
were
no, no,
able to
no.
see all the context?
The context was mapped or linked here at the information node here, employee information, because everything was employee information. That was the reason it was showing it out. So you can just visualize the value at a different context here. If I click on to employee and click on display queue as such, so again it will just show everything into a single part only.
Oh, got it.
So my by chance I haven't done that bit. That is the reason. Okay,
Thank you.
cool. So I think this is what we have here at your mapping part. I can just do one thing. I can just take one more example, last one, and after that, maybe we can just we'll go into the next topic, or maybe we'll just start uh, the part into the next session. So now, what exactly is my next part? So now, I think, guys, this is why I'm just taking it out also, because if you just do understand one or two this example, because initially I also had a challenge to understand it out, because you can just get all this information, but when you're just trying to implement it out, for you, it will be a little challenge to do that. So now let me save this out. I'll just create one more message mapping here now, because we don't need to test it from outside. We can just save time and we can just do it internally using the simulate part. So now I think the next example what we have here is again pretty much standard. Let's say in case if you have a flat structure, okay, and you want to convert into some kind of a tree structure. How to do that particular bit? But first important thing is, how does my flat and how does my tree structure look like here? So let me just go quickly here, go to the mapping. So here, this is my center system. Let me just open it out. Okay, where I have my your employee, then a person node, and then we have the name of the particular manager ID, manager name, employee ID, manager name. Let me just do one thing. Let me just show that XML for it. Okay, so this is how my sender structure look like. So here we have this person information where it just talks about manager ID, manager, again the different employee and your employee ID. So here we see with manager ID 100 we have this employee A and B are tagged, and for your manager ID 2000 we have this employee C and employee D are tagged as such. So now in that particular case, now let's say what my expectation is that onto the receiver side. Now let me just open the receiver structure here also. So this is my receiver structure. So now here what we are looking here is that onto your right side we should have this kind of a node person here. First we have this manager ID, manager name, and what are the different employees should get tagged to that particular part. Okay, so where is that structure? Sorry, I have a little. Okay, where is, let me just open it out again. So now here, so I'll just try to just repeat it. My what current structure look like is that in a person we have all this information of manager, employee. So now here we have this duplicacy of repeating this manager node. Okay, so now what they're looking is under person they have this manager node, whichever is like manager, and then inside that manager what are the different employees we have it. So this is how your sender and your receiver structure, what is the expectation of it. So now this kind of example might be you have to do it here into the CPI part here. So now first what I'm going to do here is for this particular case I'll just go here, quickly add the structure as such. Let me just add a source structure. Might be, let me just add here this receiver part, then might be I think it'll easy to understand it. So now here, so you see this information, and here it will be little like this. Is what is use case clear to everyone? What we're just going to develop it out here? Anyone any kind of question here as such?
Sam, here you're setting the components right here. The component, this second figure, how you it is coming from SAP system, or just you uploading all this one here, the
See,
component employee.
okay, so I
This
have this
yeah.
kind of I have this X schema with me. Okay, so
Okay.
that's why I'm just uploading it out. So it can depend, might be some in some use case someone can give you the XSD, which is the XML schema definition, or might be you have to create it out. Mostly happens is that you will be able to get the schema where you have to map this information as such.
Means this is an XSD and this is an XML, right? Here we
This is
component.
XSD only, na? This is XSD as such, man. This is XML. Whenever you have this data, that's an XML. This is your schema as such.
Okay, means the relation between the XML and XSD with the backend system. This one. Because in because I at the layman level just you're telling that yes
Both are XSD
you
structure. Both are XSD structure. Don't get confused. Both are XSD structure here as such. This is a
okay
standard structure. This is a receiver structure. Receiver expected out. Now we have to map it out. Okay.
okay
And we have this test data, which I'll receive from my, which I'll receive from my sender, and I have to convert it into the receiver part as such. As simple as that.
okay okay let's check okay
Okay.
yeah
Cool. So now what I'm gonna do here is I'm just going to map step by step here. So now here, what I'm gonna do here is I'm just going to map this compound node to the compound node. I think for the person element in the target structure will be group based on the manager ID as such. Okay, because now here we want it to based on the manager part of it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to map it out one by one and then just show you how this particular part work out. So here I'm going to map it, this manager ID, this manager ID here also, manager name. Okay, then we have your employee node here, employee ID, and then we have your employee name. Only the one catch which will come here is whenever we are mapping this employee node as such. Okay, so that would be group based on the manager ID as such. Okay, so in that particular case, what we have to do here is we can actually copy it. Okay, so we are copy it mean we have to just link this node here, because now here all your employee information will get attached based on the manager ID. That's why I have attached to the employee node. So first what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do build again step by step. In case if you have any questions, just let me know. Whatever the new functions will come up, I just try to highlight it out. Let me know in case uh, if you have any kind of question as such here. So
Hey
first
Sam, I had a question. Sorry. Well, is it necessary to map the manager ID field to the person field on the structure end? Is it?
yeah, because here what happens is, so we have this top node person. Okay, so this person's node, now we are doing it based on manager, because the grouping has to be done on based on a manager node only. So that's why I have mapped this manager ID to the person node, because else this person structure will not be get reference here, because this is a part of this employee. Na? Now let's in case if we have all the data coming in this person structure as such. So how we want to display it out here onto the receiver structure, that's why I've mapped it here.
Okay. Is there a way like I can like check it while debugging and playing around? Like, will
Yeah.
that be possible? Okay.
See, whenever I say display queue, that time you actually debug it only. Na? So when I just click on display queue,
Hmm.
whenever you use different functions, how does it get received into that particular part? We do the same part. But what I'll do here is I'll just try to do this for person very specifically for you as such. Okay.
Okay.
So now let's say in case if we have to, as I mentioned, we have to group a person based on the manager ID. So what there are different again functions. One is remove. Now people do understand that part. Then we have your split by value. Okay, then what I'm gonna do here is this time I'm just going to do one thing very unique as such. So now here we have one more function which is a collab context. Okay, it basically takes the first value of each context as such. Okay, so what do I mean by that particular part? Because here I know the manager ID will get duplicated every time in the different person node. Okay, so what it'll do is it just takes the first value. Now I'll do one thing. I'll first do it to the system only, then I think you'll be able to relate it out. The reason is, so now here let's say if I want to see the text is correct. So now you see here we have this all the managers ID as such. So after that we are going to do I'm going to do your remove context. So all your values we do see it. So now whenever I just go onto the collapse context, you will see it will just put all the value onto the context here. And whenever I go on to your person, so it will just show me only the two values, which is 1,000 and your 2,000. Okay. Okay. Sorry. One thing I did wrong here. Whenever we have the split by value, okay, so what we have to do is, so when you want to split this value, so here important point is the context change here. Here as the value is repeating it out, 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. So what we have to do is on each value, empty value, or on a value change. Okay, so if I click onto the value change, so now let's say here after remove context, we have values in this particular format as such. Okay, so we have now all the values after this remove context. Now when I just do a split by value with a context change as a value change, only on the value change this should get split by value. So in this particular case, what will happen is if I just click onto this, so now you see, now this has put it like this, my structure. Okay, now we have this 1000, 1000, 2000, 2000. Now this collab context will only just pick the first value of each context. So now if I just click here onto the display queues, now you'll see 1000 and 2000 only. So now here onto the person node, so now this will have just only the two values. So when I'm going to get my corresponding structure, I'm just going to have 1000 person node and then 2000 person node, and in that my all the employees will get linked. Does this help it out? Again, I think this is just a extreme example, but are you able to relate it out?
So Sam here, manager ID and person. So this is a relation, right? So from the relation, how you are sorting, at what you're sorting from this with the remove, input, and set by value, the how we can get this logic from these two, manipulate and person, how we can analyze on this, because we are mapping, right, the values.
See, first of all, what I'm just trying to say is we are not here sorting anything. We are
Yeah.
just trying to create this person node based, or we are trying to this group this node based on the manager ID. Okay,
Okay.
because when we
Okay.
just see our previous structure, you have this 4 node of person where you have all the details. Now we want to have this person node where group based on a manager ID where we have like 1000, and then your employee A and B gets tracked into that manager node only. Okay, we don't have to repeat all these things. Same way we have this 2000 node where employees E and D get stacked to it. So now here we haven't done any kind of a sorting. We just have bring into remove context, split by value, and with value change we are trying to get the only specific values. Collapse is just to get, let's say in my context, if there are similar values, it will just take the first value of each context and it will pass it to the person node. See, this kind of examples, I know this is not something very straightforward. Okay, but yeah, this comes with the practice, guys. This is not something you can just learn by seeing it only. You have to go into system and practice it out for you.
Yeah, yeah. Based on practice, we can get an idea of how to map manager to the person. That's what you're saying, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, anyone else?
This person would require change in context, right? Or it would repeat it, the final person after collapse context.
After collapse context only, there are two nodes are there only, 1000 and 2000, that's it.
Okay, shouldn't we have a context in between, or it would be fine?
It would be fine, it would be fine.
Okay.
Because this is at the top node side, that's the reason.
Okay.
If it's at the field level, yes, we have to bring in the context. Good, you're getting it out. Good, you're relating it out. Okay. What was the name? Devish, you're able to relate it out.
Yes, I am able to, but I did not get the last question which was asked. Like whoever asked the question, I didn't get that question and what you were
Oh,
responding to.
okay, see, I think he was asking it out for, let's say, in case if the value is going into the specific field. So we have to just do we have to bring the context also here between the values. So he was asking that particular part. But currently we don't need that part because that's a main top node. If it's a field value, we have to bring the split by value, which will actually bring a context change as such.
Oh, got it. Okay.
No, I think then he's able to relate it. That was my understanding. Good. Okay, then if I go to the manager ID, again we have let's say for manager ID or manager name, I think this is again a straightforward. So this will use some again specific function. Few functions remain the same. Let's say remove If you're doing a good mapping, remove context and all this will definitely come out, guys. But I'll just tell you, these are like very good example. Okay, all these functions. If you're able to practice that, I don't think so there should be a mapping challenge for you as such. Split by value, we have then collapse context. Then last is, now in this particular case, we are going to pass the value to this manager ID as such. So we have to bring split by value as such as. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to map it out one by one. Split by value again on a value change. Then we are going to the collapse context, from collapse to split by value. Here what we have to do is split by values on each value. Okay, so make sure that after each value, because here already we have done the on a value sheet, so we are only going to get the filtered value. So here it should be each value. Let me just try to show you by example only. Now let's say here, if I show you, we have this manager ID, because with this data only we'll be able to relate better. So here we have this records. We do understand that we do have different information for your manager. Remove context will bring it to one context. Split by value, so this time we have done on value change. Okay, so now we'll have 1000, 2000. Collapse context will just take the two values as such here, and now because we have to pass it into this manager ID manager node specifically, so what we have bring this concept of a display queue. So 1000 will go in one node and 2000 will go in another node, manager ID. Now I think the one question comes up is that, because here if you just look at a lot of mapping function we use and a lot of things can be reusable also. So we have here the option of a copy and a paste. So once I just click onto the copy, so it just copies the entire expression. I go to the manager name here, and here I just click on the paste part. You can just delete this part here. You can just put directly the manager name, and you can just pass it here onto this particular part. So now once I just click onto this bit, because then you will be able to see the values, what is supposed to get into your part. So here we see manager and manager A and manager B for the manager name as such. Now I think if we are able to work smartly with this particular nodes, we don't have to write anything on employee ID or employee name, because based on the employee node filter, it will automatically take the employee ID and employee name. So, your employees, as I mentioned, your employee elements are determined by number of subordinates of each manager. So again, how do we actually do it for your employee node? So again, this is little critical as such. So what will happen is, here there are again one different thing what we have to do it here is, so first one is definitely we have your so now as we have seen that we now need to filter or get the only employees based on my manager only. So only for A, for 1000 it should only take employee ID 800 8000 and A, and 8005 and B. For 2000 it should take C and D as such employee ID. So now again there are few things which will be very straightforward, only there is a one catch. So now what I'm going to do here is, first I'm going to use a function of remove context. Then I'm going to use something called split by value. This option, when I just talked about the context changes, it's very important. Okay, so now here first I'm going to pass it my manager ID here into my remove context, because I just want to get specific IDs of it on a value change. Okay, now here one important thing is how we are going to take the values based on this manager ID only. So for that particular part, again, there is again one more function is there which is called format by example. So if I just hover over to it, it says it takes value from first queue and fills them into the structure of your second queue here. So now I'm not sure if you're able to relate it out here. So first what we'll do is I'll just try to put it out and then might be you'll be able to relate it better. So this would be my input to this format by example, which is my employee ID. And then I'm going to take this particular split by value into the pattern. Split by value, again, you have to make sure this is on a value change. And I'm going to pass it here onto the employee. Till here, I think everyone is okay. Here, split by Q, we have these two things, which is my value, which is 1,000 or a 2,000, 1,000, and 2,000. Now here, just important thing is I'm not here bringing the collapse context, which is just going to take the first value from the each context. Here, what I'm going to do is I'll just first click on display queue so that you should be able to relate it out here. Okay. So now here, if you just look at, I really like this part because here you just get a very good clarity. Okay. So now first is your for a format example input one. Okay. Then we have your format example input two. So which is your here your manager ID will be coming, which is your 8,000, and your employee ID is coming 8,000, 8,005, and here your manager ID is coming from the split by value here. So what format by example will do is it just take the input values based on the context change from the pattern queues here. So now it knows for 1,000 this is going to create 8,000, for 1,000 it's going to create 8,005. Here again the context change. 2,000 will be mapped to 9,000 and 2,000 will be mapped to the 9,002 as such, because this is my manager ID and this is going to be the corresponding employee ID. If I go here into this particular node, as I mentioned, format by example, it says very clearly it takes the values from the first queue, fills them into the structure of a second queue. So here important it says it takes the values and yeah, just look at the last part of it. It says take the values from the first queue and fills into the structure of your second queue here only. Okay. So now if I just go here onto the employee part, so you will see for your node one, okay, which is your manager ID, manager ID 1,000, you will see 8,000, 8,005 get created here into this employee nodes here. This is a node, so that's why I don't want to have bring some kind of a collapse context here. If I click onto the simulate part here, if I click onto the test, now you see for manager A, there are two employees get created, which is A and which is your B. Same way for the second node of person, we have this manager ID 2,000, we have this employee ID created. So this is what was our requirement. Our requirement was rather than you're getting your in every node the manager and manager ID details, they want to just they just want to club it based on the ID so that all the employee gets stacked to that same manager here. So that what we was able to do it out here in this example. Again, this is a like very complex part of the example. You will not have this complexity. You will have like 40 or 50% of this complexity. But just one very straightforward here part. This mappings is not like straightforward. You will be able to learn in 1 or 2 days. Okay, this takes little practice. Myself, even how much time this happens, if there is some kind of a logic comes up, I also try to build in it out. There are like multiple examples comes up, some specific date based on A. In case if date A is filled, then only I should be able to populate a receiver. In case if date A is blank, then there are two fields which I need to concatenate and pass it out. So there are so many logic I have it. I cannot just say very specific, okay, this is just part. If you are able to get a 50 or 60% of it and you are able to go into your project, trust me, you'll be able to pull it out. Again, this is like a very complex part of it. I don't think so. If I have seen people who are working on to some good company project, okay, if you'll ask them, okay, how is this format by example, no one will be able to relate it. For me, it's easy because every 3 months, 2 months I have a batch, so I just repeat things. Okay, so this takes time. Okay, and please don't expect that these things can be learned in a one day. But this is on the extreme side, but this is the maximum part how your logic can get, or you have to build it out as such. Any question here?
Hey Sam, how did we make sure that the manager name, like manager A, got mapped to the correct ID? Because we didn't reference the ID when we were mapping the manager name. So can you just go back and show that again?
See here, what we have done is manager and manager ID and manager name was a very straightforward mapping as such. Okay, that's the first thing. Are you talking about grouping employee based on manager? So
No,
we
no,
have
no.
done.
I was talking about the simple part where manager name is getting where you have mapped just the manager name. Yeah.
So here what we have done is, so let's say in case if we have manager name, first we did a remove context. We did a split by value only on a value change because manager name will get repeated here. If you just see here the display queue, so you will see manager A, then manager B, and then your context. Okay,
Hmm.
this is in your remove context. Then if I go on to your split by value display queue, so you will see manager A in a one context A, and then B. Okay,
Hmm.
are you able to read it out here?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, then if I go into the collab context, collapse, what it do is it just takes the first value from the each context. So here it's going to give me like structure like this. Okay,
Hmm.
and then as we need to pass this value to a manager name, so I need to bring the context, so that can bring using the split by value. So here I just keep on each value. Again, this kind of a logic you have to always check it out whenever you want to bring it out. Okay, so here if I do a split by value, you'll see A, B, and then B, and then in manager name you will see this is how it looks like and the end.
Right. Got it. No, I got confused because I was wondering how come we already have the manager ID sort like mapped, right? So I was wondering how is 1,000 getting mapped to manager A, how is 2,000 getting
Okay,
mapped to manager B, but I
no,
understood we are getting
okay,
it from the same context and then we are eventually
mapping it
sending.
out.
Yes, yes,
Correct,
got
correct, correct. Actually, here in the manager name, I just took this copy paste function easily. Okay,
it.
so that is the reason when I copy the manager A, I copy the configuration, I put it in, paste it into manager because this is a very fast way to develop it out things.
Got it.
Okay,
Got it. Thank you.
yeah. So guys, I'll just do one thing. I'll just give it a pause here today because I know this whenever I'm just talking about a mapping, this is not something very straightforward to understand it out. So I would highly recommend might be you can just take a time today and just go through the things, ask me the question. Again, as I mentioned that please, you have paid for this. It's not something I'm just doing as some kind of free service. In case you have any question, we can have a discussion. As I mentioned, we have a 10th. In case we are able to finish by 18th or 24th, I can just plan 1 week. Any day you say on weekends only. Okay, because I want everyone. I cannot just have it like for two people. Let me know. We can have a detailed discussion. And trust me, guys, I don't feel any kind of a shame if I am not able to answer it out. I'm a human. So if there is anything which I think I have to also check it out, so I can just check and come back. But we'll just do have a one session because I've gone through that pain having it with multiple people. It just consumes a lot of my time. So plan it a day also, 31st, first, whenever you want to just sort it out all your things. Now, before closing out today's call, there's a one thing which I want to discuss it out. Okay. So guys, currently I think how we have started this particular batch, we are mostly talking about your simple structure. Okay, when I say simple structure, you have just a one structure where you want to push in the order details. But you cannot just go lifelong with just having a structure in a process. Okay, so you're going to use multiple things whenever you have to process it out. When I say multiple things, yeah, there can be a chance that instead of having this particular structure like this, you can have a table where instead of a single order, you have a multiple orders which hits into the system. Okay, so the next topic for tomorrow, what we're going to do is how to work with list as such. Okay, the table as such. Like, let's in case if you have 1,000 orders coming into the CPI, then how you're going to process it. But there are definitely few things which we really need to be have like crystal clear. Let's in case, or if there are multiple records, what should be our approach. Okay, I think there are 5 points, not anything from the execution how we built it, but logically if I say. Okay, so the first point here is how do I actually split my message into individual messages. That's the first thing. Okay, then once your message is split, how do I iterate over it? So now let's say in case for all my orders, and let's say in case if I want to get a shipping details, how do I iterate over each order? Now after that, let's say in case if I able to have process, so how do I iterate is a one thing, might be how do I handle the resulting messages, okay, in SAP CPI processing chain. Then last would be how to, again I think these are for like how do I combine all the messages together okay in a one response message. So this we are going to just look at tomorrow, that how do we are actually, how can we work here into your, whenever we have this list of orders coming into the system, how do we actually first of all split, how do we iterate, how do we work with a single message, and then how do we actually combine all the messages as such. So these are like 4 points which we are going to discuss tomorrow, how we actually work with the list, how do we actually process that particular part. Okay, so let's just start this particular topic tomorrow, and then we'll just see what else I can just add it here as such. Okay, so before I just close it for today, any questions as such? Okay, I asked like multiple times. So what you can do is just go through it. In case if there is anything to discuss it out, please drop email. Maybe I can just include, or before starting tomorrow, I can just talk about that. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.
So, Sam, today's topic we have in the video, or can you send a mail? Because today you have uploaded some Excel, XML, and XST, right? So that data we can get, because I need to practice on mapping tomorrow. So
Sure. No, fair point, fair point. I'll just message you. I'll just all guys email you the XSD and XML files, and I'll make sure the session is also uploaded in within a couple of hours, 1 or 2 hours, so that you can actually practice it. Fair point. I'll do that part. Okay.
okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, one
Thank you.
question here. Can you show me this IDOC structure, yes? Because such that I can also familiar.
What part of IDOC structure as such
Like
here?
how, if I wanted to include my IDOC structure into CPI, how can I do it here?
See, this is very straightforward. Matlab, you don't have to do anything. You just have to make a connection with your
It's like order 05 PS or any delivery one,
see,
this one.
see, I think you're just thinking it very much loud here. So there are two things to it. First of all, are you talking about getting from the ECC or S4 system, or are you talking about adding it here into the resources?
Yeah, in the resources, yes.
So you want to add your, so you can just add as an existing only, na?
No, in PO, when I go to the PO, I can go with add the IDOC structure from the ECC, like order 05, yes. But here I
No,
do
here
not
you,
know how.
no, you have to add it directly manually. Can you send me some sample structure if you have it?
Okay, sure, yeah,
Please
sure.
do that. Please do that. Please,
Okay,
with the data for me, it's easy to show it up. Just do that. I'll be able to add it for tomorrow. Okay.
okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.